All right, good people. Hey, welcome back, man, for another edition of Kingly Conversations, man, where we are just having conversation, you know what I'm saying? So, who am I?
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
You know what time it is. As I am every single week, man, my name is Alan.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Twan, a.k.a. Twan. How at your boy? You know what time it is.
It's your friend, your mentor, Calvin D. Hill.
Rapid fire intros today.
Yeah.
Rapid fire.
Coming in hot. Let's go. Hey, topic for today, guys. What we got going on today? First of all, whoa. Thank you for our listeners, man. We appreciate your support, man. Thank y'all for listening. Hey, get a little closer to the speaker so you can hear this, man. I love y'all, man. Thank y'all. All right, man. What's up? What's today's topic, guys?
So the topic that I so graciously came up with was that, you know, no democracy has ever survived itself.
We're gonna get educated
Now,
today,
go
y'all.
ahead, educate us on what is democracy so we can get that. Let's start there. That way.
Let's not do the people like that.
No, you have to, because
Okay.
to me, if you can't break it down to a child level, you're not helping.
So, at its core, a democracy is supposed to be a society where everybody has a voice in how that society is run and managed. However, the voice of the majority is supposed to be essentially the leading voice.
So you're saying we don't have that here in America?
I am saying that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I mean, well, and here's the problem. So if we look at like a textbook definition,
Right.
it's essentially the will of the people. The problem that you have is in most democracies, who the people, quote unquote, are, is determined by somebody. And so, like, even in our society, the people, for the vast majority of the time, the people are not anybody who's a felon. The people originally weren't anybody that wasn't white and did not own land. So that meant that excluded women, that excluded free Africans, that excluded certainly the Africans that were enslaved,
And the poor whites.
Mm-hmm. So if you were not a white male landowner, you were not the people.
Okay.
In our country. Now, other democracies, representative democracies, may have their constitution may have been different, but in our constitution, that was who the people were.
Congratulations.
I mean, you know,
You're welcome.
that's essentially how it goes down. And the reason I say that no democracy has ever survived itself is because they always crumble from the inside. They crumble because of internal strife and internal infighting amongst essentially the haves and the have-nots, or the oppressed and the oppressors.
Mm-hmm.
They almost, not even almost, they always crumble and then come back as a new nation or something like that.
Question, and we might have to do research for this one. Do we have a example of other democracies that have fallen? Right on. We'll do some research and come back to that one.
Not, you don't even really have to do that.
Okay.
I mean, you can just look around. I mean, if you look at, you can look at Greece, you can look at Rome. I mean, because Greece is where we even got the idea of a democracy. You know, that's the whole Western philosophy comes from Greece. And we have the oldest constitution anywhere on the planet. There are 0 nations with a constitution as old as ours. I don't know that that's good or bad, but there are no nations with a constitution that are this old. None. Name one.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
1776, ratified in 1789, but 1776. Most constitutions of the world are 100 years old or less, because some countries actually create new constitutions. because no document that humans have written is going to be perfect when it was first penned. Because all of these documents, especially constitutions, they are documents of compromise. Somebody wanted this, but in order to get this, they had to do without that. Even in our Constitution, there were powers that be that were there at the Continental Congress that were developing the Constitution that wanted to include an abolition of slavery in the Constitution, but they couldn't. Because the Virginians weren't going for that.
Why not?
Because at the time, Virginia would have been the most powerful state in the Union because of its agricultural prowess. If you look at most of a lot of things that would have been grown at the time, a lot of that stuff would have been. There's a reason so many of our presidents have come out of Virginia, especially very early on. If you look at very early on, most of the presidents came out of Virginia. So is because that's where you had people that had wealth, power, and influence. And unfortunately, this country has always been a place where you have to keep the people who have wealth, power, and influence happy, or you get removed from power yourself. And that is the problem with democracy and why they end up crumbling time after time after time after time. Is because people who have the power don't share. They're all like Sauron for people that are Lord of the Rings fans, right?
Stop.
The Dark Lord does not share power. And so you have to navigate that. It's the reason why it's so difficult to be a politician is because you constantly have to make concessions for what may be right. For what so that somebody will vote your way. And so that's where part of the problem comes in. So that's why democracies end up failing, because it's the will of the people, and people are weird.
People are weird.
People are weird units, man.
People are weird.
They are.
Okay, so we answered the question, what is democracy? So here you have a question. Do humans really desire a true democracy? Now, like you said, a true democracy, by definition, is a
The will of the
government
people.
by the people.
Yep.
Or what the will of the people, the majority, wants. So you're saying, or the question is, do we really want that?
Yeah. Do we desire true democracy? And I think that if we never recognized it at any other time in history, I certainly think that the last 10 to 15 years in the United States has said that we don't. What we want is a democracy that does what we want it to do, and not what the people want it to do. We want a democracy that does what I want it to do, and if it doesn't, then it's not a democracy.
So how do you say in the last 10 years, and I'm sure you're going to probably hit the elections on this. Well, I'm not going to actually, I ain't going to do that. Okay.
So for an example, and I'll hit a very current event, because in a representative democracy, it doesn't matter what the individual believes. What matters is what the will of the majority is.
Right. There you go.
And this is why I say so very recently. Oh man.
There we go.
So there are tons of polls. Tons of them.
Not stripper poles, people.
Stripper polls.
Anyway, move on.
But there are tons of polls. Yeah, I'm about to talk about the abortion issue, right? That where the vast majority of the American people say that the choice should be left up to the individual.
Right.
Not and that the allowance should be left up to the event, not the state government, not the federal government.
The individual.
The individual should be able to determine, because then if you say you're somebody who believes one way or the other, right, you can exercise your own right. The problem is the federal government gave people the right to choose, and certain people didn't like that people had the right to choose. But you can't begrudge that people have the right to choose in a democracy, because the cornerstone of democracy is choice. So, like, and my thing is, I got no issue with whatever you want to do, because you have to govern your own house.
Right.
And that's what, but when you take away the opportunity for people to govern their own house, the way that they see fit, is that a democracy?
It's government.
It's not a democracy. Because the people said, this is what we want, and the government said, state governments, because the federal government essentially said, we're not going to do one way or the other. That's what the Supreme Court did. They said, we're going to remove our opinion one way or the other. State governments get to decide. But at least 14 state governments already had a trigger law in place that said, if the Supreme Court removes this decision, it immediately becomes illegal. That's not democracy. That is not democracy, because you took the choice away. So now, even if the will of the people was one, now the crazy thing was, Kansas fought back against it. I think it was Kansas, but anyway, a Republican state fought back against that and said, "Nope, we're gonna." They voted to keep choice in place. I was surprised actually, but the people actually came out to the polls and said, "Nah, we're not standing for that." We still want. So yes, if you are somebody who, for religious belief or personal belief, then yes, you and your house.
Right. Then choose.
Right. You and your house don't have to do it. But this person and their house, so the problem is choice. And if you want to have choice, you can't take away other people's choice if you want choice.
But isn't democracy going with the majority of the people that choose one way or the other?
Yeah.
The majority, you have to go with the majority.
The majority of the people that chose. Here's the problem with the way that we choose, is we don't get to choose. We choose the representative who is supposed to choose what we want. But that representative chooses what they want. So, because to me, the whenever something comes up in the Senate, which would not work because we'd have so many times to vote, it should then say, okay, constituents, what do we want to do here? Okay, this is my vote. My constituents say they want this. Whether it's my belief or not, my job is not to have beliefs. My job is to represent the beliefs of the people who put me in power.
But all the people around me say the same thing that I like them to say, so they're gonna say what I say.
People who agree with you,
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. The people that agree with.
Gotcha.
Oh,
okay.
So that's so that's a democracy.
No.
But they the majority.
They're not. They're the majority of the people that's in your ear. They ain't the majority, because you know how you know who the majority is? Vote. You take a vote.
But we did what the vote said.
You didn't.
Wait, what?
Because there wasn't a vote. If there's a trigger law, that is not a vote.
I see what you're doing, man.
You're trying so hard.
You're trying hard.
But see, this is the problem. This is why democracies have such a hard time, is because you put people, you say, okay, we're going to have the will of the people, and then it isn't. It's the will of the loudest minority that gets stuff that they want. Because the majority just assumes that everybody sees it how they see it. And so very often they don't even put up any fight or any effort, because and that's always a problem. Being a part of the majority is always the problem, because if you feel like everybody, this should be a done deal, so then you don't go out and fight. But the people who don't feel like it's a done deal is always the minority, whether it's the largest minority or whatever. So they come out and fight, and then they get what they want, and now you mad.
So you saying the Karens get what they want because they talk louder, and they get the people that think like them and put them in place where they can vote the way they want to vote.
Yep.
And the people that don't are left out back to suffer for the choices they made. Is that it in a nutshell? Is that what I should gather from all of this?
You should gather that everybody should do everything that they can to make sure their voice is heard, even if, and especially if, they're in the majority. And if you don't, then we see what we get.
All right. So okay, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
You talking about voting and things of that nature. There's a lot of people out there that don't want to vote because they feel like the vote don't count for nothing. So there's like, nope, I ain't gonna do it. But then again, they come back and they complain about everything about the democracy.
I got no problem. I got no problem with you not voting, as long as you ain't complaining after that.
Okay. But he's saying they complaining.
I know what he's saying.
Figuratively speaking,
okay. No, they are complaining. Ain't no figurative. They complaining.
But I know my rights.
No, you don't.
And
no, you don't.
This is my country.
You don't know your rights.
And this is my country. This is my land.
You know that's a British song.
Wow.
And so,
Most of our national songs are actually British songs with different words.
So what it sounds like to me
Let's go.
is you're trying to make this a socialist country.
Well, what is socialism?
What is socialism?
That's a good question.
Look it up.
Because I love America.
Look it up.
Wait.
Hey, listen. Well, y'all saw that thing. So if you want an excellent example of socialism, look at the military.
No.
Look at the military.
Military takes care of us.
Exactly. That's
takes
socialism.
It's not. Because I know my rights.
No, you don't. And this is what I mean. It's so the powers that be have done such a good job.
I'm listening.
With the washing of the brain that people actually don't know what any of this is. Like they really don't know what any of it is. They just they listen to some talking head on a radio station or some idiot on a podcast.
Oh my God.
And now they think they know something, but they ain't actually read anything, they ain't actually looked anything up. They haven't done anything.
I know a coworker like that, man.
And I'm like, bro, like it's like so it's for me, like as soon as somebody says, "Oh, on the so and so podcast," I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, you one of them."
Yep.
As soon as you say that, I'm like, "Oh, you one of them."
You know what's crazy? Real quick, somebody did that. They pulled up, "Hey man, y'all hear about the new laws in Florida?" Blah 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 blah. In the shop, and they pulled it up and they started playing it, and then they looked at the person like, "Oh, I ain't listening to that." Like just some radical dude just mouthing off. But yet and still, this is what you're going by. This is how you get your information about politics and laws that's being changed. Anyway, moving on.
Which is only weird to me because every bill that ever existed ever, you can go read it. Like these bills aren't hidden. Now, are the bills long? Sure. But today we got technology. We actually have, Control F works really well.
We got technology, baby.
Control F is find for the people so if you're looking for a word or a phrase, you can Control F that, baby, and find the word or phrase you're looking at in the document. So, it's so people just that is also the problem is they don't know what socialism is, because if they did, they would also understand that Social Security is socialism. Disability is socialism.
Shout out to socialism.
What else? Medicare, Medicaid, socialism. Any of the social welfare programs are essentially, if the government is taking care of anything,
then it's socialism.
That is socialism.
So we don't want socialism here in America.
We don't want socialism unless it's the socialism I want. That's essentially what that is. We don't want it at all unless it benefits me.
Yeah.
And that is truly the
That's
American way. Is we don't want it at all unless it benefits me, and then I want it.
I know my rights.
I can work hard and take care of my own. And everybody should do that.
Okay, ask Mississippi how that's working out.
How's it working out, Mississippi?
Ask Alabama.
Do we got any listeners in Mississippi and Alabama?
I don't know.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. You might.
Not with Huey on the mic. No, sir. But tell you what, buddy.
Huey and the angry preacher. Look at you over there with the tie on and everything. You got your tie loose like you about to spit fire. Hot fire. All right, get back on topic, man.
So,
but yeah, no, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
No, but again, like you said, a lot of people don't, unless it benefits them, they really don't want democracy or socialism or anything else unless I can see the benefit for me.
Yeah.
And the systems are set up to where, we say we going with the majority, but we really not.
We are not going with the actual majority.
We're actually not.
And the thing of it is, the thing that's the most annoying is if they wanted to, because there are countries around the world where you actually vote with your mobile device.
Question.
Like there's an actual.
It will make it easier, but then everybody could have a vote, and
they don't want everybody
to have a vote.
They don't want everybody to have
That's
a
why
vote.
you
That's
put all
the
these things in place. Yeah.
Illegal vote. Anyway, so if we're not in that category, then what category would y'all say that we're in? Then?
A true democracy. We are and
Republic.
Yeah.
We're Republic. Because we have somebody representing what we say our choice is.
And therein lies the other part of that problem.
Right, because that person can say, okay, yeah, I agree with you, and I think this is what is right. We're going to do this, that, and the third, but then turn right around and do the very thing we told them not to do.
They can.
But because they're in power, they're in the position, they're in the authority.
I'm gonna tell you what you want to hear first, so I can
that
get in
is the
position.
name of the game. That's the name of the game, and we got far away from voting people in with kind of character and integrity to where they would actually do what they said they would do. We've gone so far from that we don't even recognize it now. We don't realize the hustlers in the office. We don't we don't recognize the thugs and the goons in the top tier. We can't even see it.
You ain't, you know.
Because one, we don't care.
Oh,
hey
no,
man,
it's
but
some
you call it.
political
You call.
goons
I
out
always
there, man.
always said the same thing, and it bites me in the long run. And I've said it before. Politics is a game. You pick a team and you run with one team.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get killed in the yard.
Unfortunately.
So, and that is the way it is. So, if you're not Democrat, if you're not Republican, don't run for office. Do not even approach. Most of them like to say I'm independent or whatever.
Protective our vipers. Stand back.
Yeah, hey.
Huh?
But that is the way our society and our country has been set up for years. So as long as you go ahead, Alan, go ahead.
Take it away, man.
Yeah,
Do what you got.
Do what you do. Let him talk. He gonna tell you to burn it.
No, I'm not
He
listening.
gonna tell you to burn it.
My issue, generally speaking, is with people who fail to keep that same energy. Because here's always the problem, is people in our society generally want to silence those who don't feel like they feel. But then they don't understand that with that very silencing of someone else, it opens the door for someone to silence you. And so that becomes the problem, I think, in a democracy, is people want their voice heard, but don't want to allow the other voices to even exist. Now, that doesn't mean society may not shun those voices. Mm-hmm. But the voice, if you want your voice to exist, the other voice has to at least be allowed to exist. Even if they're railing in the dark and ain't nobody listening. But because otherwise you end up in a situation where somebody can start saying, okay, well, they can start taking away my voices as well. And that is another thing that we see starting to happen. And I'm not, listen, it's some straight idiots out there. The problem is, if I want to be a talking head, I got to let the other talking heads be, or else somebody can come after me too. Mm-hmm. And I'm not okay with somebody coming after me. This is the issue in a democracy, is you have to be willing to allow dissenting voices to exist, good, bad, or indifferent, if you also want to have a voice. Now, there are certainly other forms of government, and I think that the one that certainly some people would rather have would be a theocracy.
And what's a theocracy there, Alan?
Oh
I mean,
God.
let's
scripted, bro. What are you doing?
I know. So a theocracy is essentially a system of government where a priest or what have you rules in the name of their God.
What'd you say? Yes, Lord.
And,
I can't do it. But I can't do it. But okay, but isn't America somewhat? It's not a theocracy, but wasn't it built on the religion and the faith of the good Christian folk who founded this country?
no,
What?
'twas not.
Huh?
Nope.
Twas not.
Don't let those people lie. Don't let those people lie to you like that.
I don't think so.
'Twas not.
Is this a Christian nation?
It is not.
It's not.
Huh?
It is not.
What?
Nope. But see,
Some people like
and
to go with paper.
here's the other. So this is the other problem with a theocracy.
Okay.
This is the problem with a theocracy.
All right.
Whose theology?
Who's God? Whose theology?
That's the problem. Because even people who believe in the same God don't have the same theology about. So
Right,
whose
they're God,
theology now? Whose theology? Because so it doesn't. So
Don't get caught up in
again,
the coat.
everything is perfect till you add people. Soon as you add us,
It's a problem.
then things start, because everybody has their own notion of what stuff should be.
Misinterpretations.
America was trying to get away from that.
They
Correct?
were. They were trying to get away. That's why they established law. They did not want any laws respecting or the establishment of a national religion.
Okay.
So they wanted to not have a national religion because I mean, let's be real. They'd seen that film.
So even if it was imposed on us as a one world religion, America wouldn't want that.
In theory,
In
theory, but now you add people, and people want that.
But this is a nation where different faiths and things come along. So why would they incorporate one
Because
to rule if other nations and other religions?
Because
are coming to the,
if mine has power, then I can minimize yours.
I read a book. I read
Okay, so
something about that.
okay,
Control
so
the
so
faith.
hit a couple more of your definitions there, then, Alan.
For what? A theocracy or what?
Well, you got a couple over here. You got communism.
Oh yeah,
you
well we
got
still in
Iran-
theocracy though, man. We still in theocracy though. You know, so
It's not a fast
so-
one.
you know,
so-
he trying to skip theocracy. You know, but so that becomes the problem in all of it is who then rules. Do you and if we're gonna be if somebody's gonna be a theocracy, especially in a nation like the United States, do you have a Sikh for a term, and then an imam for a term, and then a pastor for a term, and then a priest for a term? Like, do you just cycle through the major religions of the country?
No,
You ain't doing that.
They ain't doing that.
because they're not supposed to be together.
My way
That coexist don't work for them.
or the highway. It don't work for nobody. You know why?
Why?
This is why it don't work for nobody. Because inherently, almost all the faiths, well, I won't say almost all the monotheistic faiths say, I'm right, which means you have to be wrong. And you can't coexist with any of that.
Monotheistic faith.
Yes.
What's a monotheistic faith?
A faith that believes that
That's the only
there is
one.
one God.
There's only
That there's
religion.
one God,
There's one God. That there's not
and
a,
He doesn't dress like that.
yes, whatever that is. But so
Cut it out.
so that becomes the problem. Is if I am right, and that means you have to be wrong, we cannot coexist.
So he don't have
That's
blind
like-
eyes, blue eyes.
That's like
and
Blind
thin
eyes.
lips.
How you got blind eyes?
Blonde hair, blue eyes, and thin lips.
Is that like Calvin going to a Baptist church?
Oh Lord.
What are you trying to say?
So that's where the problem comes in right there, right? Is that if you have a theocracy, whose theology, and are you still going to make space for the other faiths that exist? And if we look around the world, generally speaking, the answer is no. In any country that has, if any country that has a dominant religion in it, the other ones, unless they've made significant strides, they mean in the government, to fix those issues, unless they've made significant strides, you end up seeing the other people, the non-dominant religions, as others in that society. And that's just, and they get othered. They get misunderstood. They get, I was, I certainly after 9/11, it was not safe to be a brown-skinned Muslim anywhere.
Nowhere, cuz.
Now, you could have been a black person, because you already was persecuted, so, it's whatever at that
It was
point.
united at that point, weren't we?
No.
Let's move on.
Well, yeah. So that becomes the problem in, again, the problem with all these systems of government is people. All of them are perfect until all of them work well on paper. They work real good on paper. And as soon as you drop a heartbeat on it, now it don't work so well. So we do have communism, since, most of the people out there in these governmental streets don't really know what communism is.
People know they know what that is.
Mm.
They see it on the news all the time.
They do.
Bucks of wine. Puts me right out. All right.
So communism, for those that don't, is essentially a subset, very distinct, but it's a form of socialism, in that just like in socialism, where the government has a lot of additional control and they are supposed to provide a lot of services, communism is somewhat. The problem we have is that every version of communism that we have seen in our lifetimes has been by a dictator, which then goes back to the problem being people.
But isn't communists supposed to seek a state of self-governance, a voluntary state of self-governance?
Yes, I mean but the problem is every time we've seen it. I mean, name the places that we've seen communism, and you will see the problem. So,
okay. So you're saying like what, Korea?
So North Korea, Vietnam for a short period of time. Well, actually, technically, they're still communist. But, and China,
where it's a dictator.
Where it's a dictator, Cuba, dictator, and they would have been a dictator no matter the version of government, because they all gained power through the use of the military. Right? So if you have a dictator, dictators gonna dictate. It don't matter. That's what they do. It don't matter what version of government they could be we almost saw that ourselves.
Why?
In a democracy, we almost saw the same
We
thing.
live in a democracy.
Listen,
we could not have one person
yes, we can.
take power and not be removed from office.
Anybody.
That would never happen here in America.
You're reading that script real well. But look, to me, anybody who is above condemnation and above and above somebody challenging them and what they stand for, to me that's a problem. Like, as soon as you get to the point where you can't say, hey, this and this about the person in power, you're leaning very heavily towards a dictatorship. If you cannot or if you have fear that by saying something about the person in power, there will be retaliation, that is a dictatorship.
Yes.
But we're in America. We have freedom of speech.
This is America.
You have freedom of speech. The problem is you don't have freedom from
Don't slip in there.
consequences. You don't have freedom from consequences.
I don't think you do.
You can say what you want. It just might come back to bite you later.
Say it again.
I'm just saying.
For the people in the back.
Okay. Moving on.
Get that? All right.
Hit him with one more. Hit him with one more.
Well, the last
And
one
we're just
left
going
is
through different
types of, and there's going to be more types there
government.
because there's because even China's version now of communism is more capitalistic than it was when it was instituted, for sure. And I would almost say this is where the problem you have comes from, is with every system of government and every application of that system, there has been simultaneously good and bad for the people who were under those regimes. Now, obviously, for the people that were murdered, very bad. But for the people who may have been lifted up out of poverty because of the regime, would they say the same thing? And that is always the problem in government, is everybody is not going to have the same view. They're going to have the view of the government based on their station, based on their position in life is where their view of the government is going to come from. So even if I was living under a dictatorship, a cruel, authoritarian regime, but me and mine did better, I'm gonna feel a certain way about that, what other people are calling a cruel authoritarian regime.
Right.
Whereas and simultaneously, if if millions of people did better under the regime, but me and my family did worse, then I'm going to feel a certain way about that regime, because people very often lack the ability to look at the entire landscape. They only look at, rightfully so, they only look at their point of view.
Yeah.
And I can't say that self-interest is not inherent to the human condition. So I can't say that they're wrong or right for that. I'm just saying, hey, it ain't all about you all the time. Like, you have neighbors, and those neighbors also have neighbors. So do you care at all about them also, or is it just like, well, me and mine? Anyway, the other one is a monarchy. That seems to go without saying. You got a king or an emperor or whatever.
Or a queen.
Or a queen who sets the laws, kills the people, colonizes the lands, whatever.
Why they got to do all that?
Hey, name
Why
it.
not? time it is.
So everybody kind of understands what a king or a queen's job is. Their job is to be a king or a queen. Their job is to run everything. Or in the case of countries like the UK, their job is essentially to be more of a figurehead, and not necessarily be taking care of the day-to-day operations of the country.
We're gonna do a part 2 to this because I want to talk about the death of Your Majesty.
Whose Majesty?
The Queen.
Your
we're
queen?
Gonna talk,
Okay.
We're gonna talk about
Where
it.
would all
We're
the
gonna
tax
deal-
money go if they don't have?
Well, we're gonna. I want to dig into it a little bit because I don't know, so I'm gonna do some.
Okay, put it on the
some
board.
reading.
Put it on the
Okay.
board
Some
then.
reading.
We just had a conversation about writing stuff down. And
Yeah.
goals and waste of time. So you might want to do that soon.
I'm gonna procrastinate.
I understand. I get it. You gotta
All right.
procrastinate, man.
I know you too well. That's a lie.
You said
As long as it's on your calendar, you're good. Music. Holla at your boy, man. What's up, man? What y'all got for closing thoughts? I'm gonna start and say that very informative as far as the democracy and how it's ran, the different types of leadership roles in countries. So I'm hoping that y'all took something away from this, at least learn a few new things. I know I did. Yeah, man, this dude right here is the elephant, man. He got
But
that
a lot of
knowledge.
people didn't know or don't even take the time to learn more about government and different ways that governments could be run or
Absolutely.
should be run to benefit not just the wealthy, not just the people who have power.
Top tier.
Yeah,
I get
but we live in a democracy, Alan.
I'm gonna be a goon.
This is
I
what
wanna
it
be
is.
I want to be one of them goons up there.
Hey, man. So
USA.
at the end of the day, man.
Sit your down.
At the end of the day, listen. Let me tell you what I know to be true. In this country of ours, the United States of America,
Oh, he getting quiet. It's about to get serious.
Hey, just don't be stupid. That's all. Like there are 1,000,001 resources that somebody could use if they wanted to really understand government, how governments work, how governments are governed, how their own. Because everyone to me should know how your own government works. You know, it's unfathomable to me that people have this a preconceived notion on what the government can and can't do, and what the people in that government can and can't do. And I say that based on the things that they were asking for and asking to happen here recently that was illegal, and they didn't care that it was illegal.
Legal.
So I'm just saying, look, go to the library, man. Get a book. Don't just listen. Don't just go on Twitter. Don't just go on the TikToks, man. Get an actual book and read it, or have somebody read it to you if you have trouble in that area. But you know, one of my mentors said, you know, he's like, you know, get all the knowledge you can while you're here, because at the end of the day, it's that knowledge and that understanding that's going to help you to make better decisions, and it's going to help you to be a better citizen of the country that you're in. But I just find that people stuck on stupid and happy being stuck on stupid.
Dang. I mean,
So we'll see y'all next week, man.
yeah.